Imagine a world where compassion knows no distance, where a single heart can touch lives across oceans in an instant. What if someone could hear your deepest cry for help, no matter where you are, and appear to guide you through the darkness? This isn't just a story. It's the essence of Buddhist wisdom, where the awakened mind transcends time and space to save others. Curious about how this ancient teaching can transform lives today? Join us as we unravel the mystery of boundless compassion, rooted in the Buddha's path. You'll discover how this wisdom can inspire your own journey. Watch till the end and share your thoughts in the comments. What does compassion mean to you? Let's begin this awakening together. Whispers of the Boundless Heart. The air shimmered with a faint golden hue, as if the universe itself held its breath. In a remote Himalayan village, cradled by jagged peaks, Tenzin sat cross-legged in his modest stone hut. His eyes half closed, lips murmuring mantras that seemed to weave the very fabric of existence. His weathered hands rested lightly on his knees, fingers tracing invisible mandalas in the air. The villagers called him the Silent One, not for his lack of words, but for the stillness he carried. A stillness so profound, it felt like the mountains themselves bowed to his presence. Yet, beyond the veil of this tranquil moment, a storm was brewing. Not of clouds or wind, but of human suffering, crying out across continents pleading for salvation. And Tenzin, unbeknownst to those around him, was already answering. Imagine, for a moment, the pulse of compassion beating through the cosmos, a rhythm that transcends time and space. What if a single heart, attuned to the cries of the world, could be in many places at once? What if the boundaries of flesh and distance dissolved in the face of boundless love? This is no mere tale of miracles, but a glimpse into the awakened mind, where the impossible bends to the will of wisdom. Stay with me, dear reader, for this story will pull you through the veil of the ordinary, into a realm where the heart's light dances across the earth. In a bustling city thousands of miles away, Mira clung to the edge of despair. Her small apartment, cluttered with unpaid bills and the weight of her loneliness, felt like a cage. She had lost her job, her savings, and, most painfully, her faith in tomorrow. That night, as she stared out her window at the neon-lit chaos below, a tear traced her cheek, carrying a silent prayer she didn't even know she'd uttered. At that exact moment, in a fishing village off the coast of Japan, Kaito knelt beside his daughter's bedside, her fever burning through his hopes. The local doctor had shaken his head, muttering about rare infections and impossible odds. Kaito's hands trembled as he whispered to the Buddhas he'd long stopped believing in, begging for a miracle. And in a war-torn valley in a distant land, young Amina ran through rubble, her heart pounding as she searched for her brother amidst the smoke and cries. 3 lives, 3 corners of the world, 3 threads of suffering woven into the tapestry of existence, each unaware that their pleas had reached the same silent heart. Tenzin's eyes fluttered open in his Himalayan hut, though to say he saw would be misleading. His vision was not bound by walls or horizons. It pierced through the illusion of separation, touching the anguish of Mira, Kaito, and Amina, as if they sat before him. His breath deepened, each inhale drawing in their pain, each exhale sending out a ripple of peace. The teachings of the Buddha speak of the Bodhisattva, one who vows to save all beings, their compassion a fire that burns without consuming. But how does such a vow manifest? How does one heart stretch across oceans and mountains to cradle the broken? The answer lies not in logic, but in the mystery of awakening. And as you follow this tale, you'll feel that mystery unfold, pulling you deeper into its embrace. In Mira's apartment, the air grew warm, though the window was cracked open to the chilly night. She froze, sensing a presence. Not a shadow or a form, but a weightless clarity, like sunlight breaking through fog. A figure appeared, robed in saffron, his face both ancient and ageless, his eyes holding hers with a gentleness that made her breath catch. "You are enough," he said, his voice soft yet resonant, as if it echoed from the depths of her own soul. Mira's heart raced, not with fear, but with a strange, electric hope. Who was this man? How had he entered her locked apartment? Before she could speak, he was gone, but the warmth lingered, and with it, a spark of courage she hadn't felt in years. She stood, her hands no longer trembling, and reached for her phone to call an old friend, a first step toward rebuilding her life. Across the globe, in Kaito's dim-lit room, the same figure appeared beside the child's bed. Kaito gasped, falling back, but the man's presence was a balm, his hand hovering over the girl's forehead. "Trust," he whispered, and Kaito felt a wave of calm wash over him, as if the fever itself bowed to this command. The girl's breathing eased, her cheeks cooling under an unseen touch. The figure vanished as silently as he'd come, but Kaito's despair had cracked open, revealing a seed of faith he thought long dead. He held his daughter's hand, tears streaming, knowing somehow she would live. In the war-torn valley, Amina stumbled, her foot catching on debris. She fell, her hands scraping the earth, her hope fading. Then, a hand grasped hers, not roughly, but with a strength that felt like home. She looked up to see the same robed figure, his eyes a beacon in the chaos. "Your brother is near," he said, pointing toward a collapsed building. "Go, but go with love." Amina ran, her fear transformed into purpose, and moments later she found her brother, alive, huddled beneath a broken wall. The figure was gone, but his words echoed in her heart, guiding her steps as she led her brother to safety. How could one man be in three places at once? How could Tenzin, still seated in his Himalayan hut, touch lives across the world? The answer lies in the teachings of emptiness, where the self is not a fixed point but a boundless field of compassion. The Buddha taught that all phenomena are interdependent, arising and dissolving in a dance of causes and conditions. Tenzin, through years of meditation, had dissolved the illusion of separation, his mind a mirror reflecting the world's pain and joy. This is not magic, but the natural flowering of an awakened heart. And yet, the story deepens, for Tenzin was not alone in his work. Others, too, had mastered this art of translocation, their vows binding them to the world's suffering like stars tethered to the night sky. Feel the pull of this mystery, dear reader. Can you sense the threads connecting these lives, the invisible hands weaving hope from despair? You might wonder, what power allows such feats? Is it faith, wisdom, or something beyond words? Stay with me, for the tale is only beginning, and the answers lie in the journey ahead. Picture Tenzin now, his breath steady, his mind a vast ocean where countless beings swim. In that same moment, another cry reaches him. A mother in a flood-ravaged village, a monk trapped in a collapsing temple, a child lost in a desert storm. Each plea is a note in a symphony of suffering, and Tenzin, with his boundless heart, answers them all. In a village swallowed by rising waters, Lamo clung to a tree, her infant son strapped to her chest. The flood had come without warning, sweeping away homes and hopes. Her arms ached, her voice hoarse from calling for help. Then the air shimmered, and Tenzin stood before her, not on the ground, but on the water itself, his robes untouched by the torrent. He reached out, his touch steadying her, and guided her to a hidden ridge where the waters could not reach. "You are never alone," he said. And though he vanished, Lamo felt a strength surge within her, carrying her and her son to safety. In a crumbling temple high in the Andes, Brother Mateo prayed amidst falling stones, his fellow monks already buried. He had accepted his fate, yet the air grew still, and Tenzin appeared, his presence a shield against the chaos. "Live to serve," he said, guiding Mateo through a hidden passage to safety. The monk emerged, trembling but alive, his heart now ablaze with purpose. And in the desert, young Samir wandered, his throat parched, his vision blurring. Tenzin's form shimmered before him, offering a handful of water that seemed to flow from nowhere. "Follow the stars," he said, pointing to the sky, and Samir, renewed, found his way to a caravan that led him home. What binds these moments? What force allows Tenzin to transcend space, to appear where he is needed most? The answer lies in the heart of the Dharma, where compassion is not a feeling, but a state of being, a fire that burns through the illusion of distance. The Bodhisattva's vow is a promise to all beings, a commitment that defies the limits of flesh. But the story does not end here. There are others like Tenzin, other hearts awakened to the same truth, moving through the world like whispers of light. Can you feel their presence, their silent promise to answer every cry? Hold this thought, for the tale weaves on, drawing you deeper into the dance of compassion and awakening, threads of light across the earth. The wind howled through the Himalayan peaks, carrying whispers of prayers from distant lands. Tenzin remained in his stone hut, his breath a steady rhythm, each exhale weaving threads of light into the tapestry of existence. His body was still, yet his heart roamed free, touching lives as if the world were a single breath shared by all. Can you feel it, dear reader? The pulse of a universe where no cry goes unanswered, where compassion knows no bounds. The stories you've heard are but ripples on a vast lake, and now the waters deepen, drawing you into a current of wonder and truth. Stay with me, for the tale unfolds further, revealing the hidden dance of awakened hearts. In a crowded marketplace in Cairo, Fatima's world was unraveling. Her stall, once brimming with vibrant silks, now held only a few tattered scraps, her livelihood stolen by a fire that had gutted her home. She stood amidst the clamor of vendors, her eyes hollow, her spirit teetering on the edge of surrender. Yet, as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in hues of amber, the air around her shimmered. Tenzin appeared, his saffron robes untouched by the dust of the market, his gaze a quiet anchor. "What is lost can be found within," he said, his voice cutting through the noise like a bell in the dawn. He handed her a single silk thread, impossibly fine yet glowing with an inner light. Fatima's fingers trembled as she took it, and in that moment a vision of her resilience bloomed. She saw herself rebuilding, not just her stall, but her hope. Tenzin was gone before she could speak, but the thread remained, and with it, a fire kindled in her heart. She began to weave again, her hands steady, her spirit reborn. Half a world away, in a rain-soaked slum in Mumbai, Ravi clutched his younger sister's hand as they huddled beneath a leaking tarp. The monsoon had taken their shelter, their food, their mother's frail health. Ravi's prayers were silent, born of desperation rather than faith. Yet they reached Tenzin's boundless awareness. The rain parted like a curtain, and there he stood, his presence a warmth that defied the downpour. "You carry her strength," he said, his eyes meeting Ravi's, and in that gaze the boy saw his mother's courage reflected back. Tenzin touched the tarp, and though no words were spoken, the rain ceased to pierce it, the shelter holding firm. As he vanished, Ravi felt a surge of resolve, leading his sister to a nearby clinic where help awaited, their mother's life preserved by a kindness that seemed to flow from the stars themselves. In a quiet Alaskan village, Elder Mary stood on a frozen cliff, her heart heavy with the grief of her people. The ice was melting too soon, the fish were scarce, and her community faced starvation. She whispered to the spirits of her ancestors, unsure if they could hear. The wind stilled, and Tenzin appeared, his robes a stark contrast against the snow. "The earth listens when you speak with love," he said, pointing to a hidden stream where fish still swam. Mary's breath caught, not at his presence but at the truth in his words. She felt the land's pulse, its willingness to provide if her people honored it. Tenzin was gone in a blink, but Mary returned to her village, her voice now a beacon, guiding her people to the stream and to a renewed bond with the earth. What is this power that allows one heart to touch so many? The Buddha taught that all beings are interwoven, their joys and sorrows threads in a single cloth. Tenzin's translocation was not a trick of the body, but a flowering of the mind, freed from the illusion of here and there. His vow as a bodhisattva was a vow to all beings, his presence a reminder that no one is truly alone. But pause for a moment, dear reader, and feel the weight of this truth. Tenzin was not the only one answering these calls. Across the world, other lamas moved in silence, their hearts attuned to the same song of compassion. Can you sense them, these unseen guardians, their steps light as a breeze, yet heavy with purpose? Let this thought linger, for their stories are about to intertwine, pulling you deeper into the mystery. In a dense jungle in Brazil, Lucia ran from danger, her breath ragged as poachers pursued her. She had seen too much, their illegal traps, their stolen lives, and now her own life hung in the balance. Her foot caught on a root, and she fell, her hope fading into the undergrowth. The air shimmered, and a new figure appeared, not Tenzin, but Lama Norbu, her eyes sharp as a falcon's, her presence a shield. "Fear is but a shadow," Norbu said, her voice steady, and she guided Lucia to a hidden path where the poachers could not follow. As Lucia escaped, Norbu's gaze lingered, her mind already turning to another cry, another soul in need. She vanished, leaving only the echo of her words, and Lucia found safety in a nearby village, her resolve hardened to protect the jungle she loved. In a bustling hospital in Lagos, Dr. Aisha fought to save a child caught in the grip of a relentless fever. The machines beeped frantically, her hands steady but her heart racing. She whispered a prayer, not to any god but to the strength within her. The room grew warm, and Lama Kelsang appeared, his presence a quiet tide. "Your hands are enough," he said, his touch calming the child's fevered brow. The monitors steadied, the child's breath easing, and Aisha felt a clarity she'd never known. Kelsang was gone before she could question, but the child lived, and Aisha's faith in her own skill was reborn, her hands now instruments of miracles. In a remote Mongolian steppe, Temujin faced a different kind of battle. His herd, his family's livelihood, had been scattered by a sudden blizzard. Alone in the freezing night he knelt, his prayers mingling with the wind. The snow parted, and Lama Yeshe stood before him, her robes glowing faintly against the storm. "The heart finds what it seeks," she said, pointing to a sheltered valley where his herd waited, unharmed. Temujin followed, his despair melting into gratitude, and Yeshe vanished, her work done, but her vow unending. These lamas, Tenzin, Norbu, Kelsang, Yeshe, moved as one, their hearts bound by the same vow, their minds free from the chains of space and time. The teachings of the Dharma speak of the three kayas, the bodies of the Buddha, the physical form, the radiant energy of awakening, and the boundless truth that underlies all. Through their practice, these lamas embodied this truth, their presence a bridge between the seen and unseen. But what drives such beings to act? What fuels their tireless compassion? The answer lies in the joy of giving, a joy that burns brighter than any sorrow. Feel that joy now, dear reader, as it pulses through this tale, urging you to stay, to see where these threads lead. Imagine a world where every cry is heard, where every heart is held. Tenzin sat in his hut, yet he was everywhere, his mind a lotus blooming in countless places. Norbu, Kelsang, and Yeshe moved in harmony, their actions a symphony of salvation. But the world's suffering is vast, and even these awakened ones could not answer every call alone. There were others, countless others, their names unknown, but their vows echoing through time. Can you hear them, the silent chorus of compassion, their steps weaving through the fabric of existence? The story is far from over, and its next turn will draw you deeper still, into a realm where the heart's light shines brightest in the darkest moments, the eternal vows embrace. The stars above the Himalayan peaks burned with a quiet intensity, as if mirroring the light within Tenzin's heart. His stone hut, bathed in moonlight, seemed to hum with the energy of countless lives touched, countless prayers answered. Yet the world's cries continued, a ceaseless tide of longing that flowed through his awareness like a river through a valley. Can you feel it, dear reader? The pull of a story that binds the broken, that weaves hope from despair. This tale is not merely of miracles, but of the heart's boundless capacity to love, to reach across the illusion of distance and time. Stay with me now, for we are nearing the heart of this mystery, where the threads of Tenzin, Norbu, Kelsang, Yeshe, and countless others converge into a single, radiant truth. In a drought-stricken village in Ethiopia, Zara knelt beside a dry riverbed, her hands clutching cracked earth. Her children's hungry cries echoed in her ears, her prayers a desperate whisper to a sky that offered no rain. The air grew still, and Tenzin appeared, his presence a gentle breeze against the scorching heat. "The earth holds more than you see," he said, his voice soft, yet carrying the weight of mountains. He touched the ground, and a faint trickle of water emerged, growing into a steady stream. Zara's eyes widened, her heart swelling with a gratitude that felt like a song. Tenzin was gone before she could speak, but the water remained, and with it her village's hope. She called her people, and together they rebuilt their lives, the stream a reminder of a kindness that transcended the ordinary. Across the ocean, in a neon-lit alley in Seoul, Ji-hoon stood on the edge of a rooftop, his heart heavy with failure. His dreams of music had crumbled under the weight of rejection, his spirit teetering on surrender. As he closed his eyes, the air shimmered, and Lama Norbu appeared, her gaze piercing through his despair. "Your song is not for you alone," she said, her words a melody that stirred his soul. She handed him a small prayer bead, its warmth grounding him, and in that moment he saw his music as a gift for others, a bridge to their hearts. Norbu vanished, but Ji-hoon stepped back from the edge, his fingers already tracing the notes of a new song, one that would later heal countless listeners. In a refugee camp on the border of a war-torn land, Hassan carried his injured father through a sea of tents, his strength fading under the weight of fear. The camp's resources were scarce, the doctors overwhelmed. His whispered pleas for help seemed to vanish into the chaos, but the air grew warm, and Lama Kelsang stood before him, his presence a quiet harbor. "Your love is his medicine," Kelsang said, his hand resting briefly on Hassan's shoulder. A doctor appeared moments later, as if drawn by an unseen force, and Hassan's father was treated, his life spared. Kelsang was gone, but Hassan felt a fire within him, a resolve to care for others in the camp, his compassion now a ripple spreading outward. In a remote Arctic outpost, Ingrid faced a different kind of storm. Her research station was cut off by a blizzard, her team trapped without supplies. Her prayers were not to a deity, but to the strength she hoped still lived within her. The ice seemed to glow, and Lama Yeshe appeared, her robes untouched by the freezing wind. "The heart warms what the storm cannot touch," she said, pointing to a hidden cache of supplies buried beneath the snow. Ingrid followed, her team saved, and Yeshe vanished, leaving behind a spark of resilience that Ingrid carried into her work, her research now dedicated to healing the earth. What is this dance of presence, this ability to be where suffering calls? The Buddha taught that the mind, when freed from clinging, becomes boundless, a field where all beings are one. Tenzin, Norbu, Kelsang, and Yeshe were not merely individuals, but expressions of a single vow, a promise to alleviate suffering wherever it arose. Their translocation was no supernatural feat, but the natural flowering of a heart awakened to the truth of emptiness, where I and other dissolve, where distance is but a dream. Yet, the story holds one final revelation, one that will draw you closer to the heart of the Dharma, urging you to see the world through eyes of love. In a small temple in Bhutan, young Pema sat in meditation, her heart heavy with doubt. She had studied the teachings, chanted the mantras, yet felt far from the awakening she sought. As she questioned her path, the air shimmered, and all four lamas, Tenzin, Norbu, Kelsang, and Yeshe, appeared before her, their presence a chorus of light. "The vow is not beyond you," Tenzin said, his voice a gentle thunder. "It lives in every breath you take for others," Norbu added, her eyes sparkling with warmth. "Your doubt is but a cloud passing over the sun," Kelsang said, his hand gesturing to her heart. "You, too, are already there," Yeshe whispered, her smile a mirror of Pema's potential. They vanished, but Pema's doubt dissolved, replaced by a clarity that set her on the path of a bodhisattva, her life now dedicated to others. And so, the tapestry is complete, yet it is never truly finished. The cries of the world continue, and so do the answers, through Tenzin, through Norbu, through Kelsang, through Yeshe, through Pema, and through countless others whose names we may never know. The teachings of the Buddha remind us that compassion is not a destination but a journey, a fire that burns within every heart willing to listen. Can you feel it now, dear reader, the spark of that fire within you? The Lama's translocation is not a power reserved for the few, but a possibility for all, a call to awaken to the suffering around you, to move through the world with a heart that knows no bounds. Picture this final scene. Tenzin in his hut, his breath steady, his mind a vast sky where stars of compassion shine. Around him, the world turns, its joys and sorrows a song he answers with every moment. Norbu walks through jungles, Kelsang through hospitals, Yeshe through storms, and Pema through her own awakening, each a note in the same melody. And you, dear reader, are part of this song. The vow of the Bodhisattva is not distant. It is in your hands, your words, your choice to love. The story ends here, yet it begins anew with every act of kindness, every step toward awakening. Will you carry this light forward? The world waits, and its cries are yours to answer.